Husband, a wife, and someone else. Hidden just above, a secret so shocking it would unravel lives and captivate the nation. But how long can someone live in the shadows before the truth comes crashing down? Welcome to True Crime Acts, where we expose the dark secrets and shocking truths behind the most chilling crimes in history. In this episode, we uncover the bizarre and sensational case of Dolly Oesterreich, a woman whose love affair took an unimaginable turn, hiding her lover in the attic for years. And when the police finally uncovered the truth, the fallout was more twisted than anyone could have predicted. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell for more updates. This is a story of obsession, secrecy, and betrayal. Buckle up as we take you on a journey into one of the most bizarre true crime cases of the 20th century. This is True Crime Acts. Walburga Dolly Oesterreich seemed to lead the kind of life others envied. Married to Fred Oesterreich, the wealthy owner of a successful apron factory, she enjoyed financial stability and social status. Their elegant Milwaukee home was the picture of prosperity, filled with all the trappings of upper-class life. But beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect marriage, a quiet tension brewed, one that would soon set the stage for a sensational and tragic story. Fred was a man of precision and order. His life revolved around his business, and his stern demeanor often left little room for warmth or intimacy. While he was respected in professional circles, his relationship with Dolly lacked the affection and passion she craved. Fred saw Dolly as another component of his structured life, something to maintain, not nurture. Dolly, however, was far from content to simply exist in his shadow. Dolly was a spirited woman, full of life and longing for adventure, recalls one historian who studied her case. Yet her desires were stifled by the rigid confines of her marriage. The Oesterreich household became a gilded cage, its beauty masking the emotional void within. The growing chasm between the couple was something neither spoke about openly, but it was palpable. Fred's frequent outbursts and dismissive attitude only pushed Dolly further into isolation. As Fred buried himself in work, Dolly found herself longing for something, or someone, that could fill the void he left behind. It was during this time of emotional disconnection that Otto Sanhuber entered their lives. Otto was a teenage sewing machine repairman, young and impressionable, brought to the Oesterreich factory to work on one of Fred's machines. Unassuming and eager to please, Otto didn't know that this chance encounter would forever alter his life. What started as an ordinary workday for Otto Sanhuber would become the beginning of a dark and twisted chapter in the Oesterreich household, the narrator intones. Their first meeting seemed inconsequential. Otto was just a repairman, and Dolly was the wife of his employer. But behind her polite demeanor, Dolly saw something in Otto, a spark of innocence and eagerness that reignited something within her. For the first time in years, she felt noticed, appreciated. As days turned into weeks, Dolly began finding excuses to visit the factory more frequently. A casual hello turned into conversations, and conversations turned into subtle flirtations. Otto, young and naive, was captivated by Dolly's charm. She was older, confident, and unlike anyone he had ever met. For Otto, Dolly wasn't just a woman. She was an escape from the mundane, a figure of fascination who offered him a glimpse of a life he had never dreamed of, the narrator explains. Fred remained oblivious to the growing connection between his wife and the young repairman. But Dolly, emboldened by the thrill of secrecy, took their interactions a step further. She invited Otto to their home under the guise of fixing another machine, but her true intentions were far more personal. What started as innocent admiration quickly escalated into a forbidden affair. Dolly and Otto began meeting in secret, their stolen moments fueled by passion and the exhilaration of breaking societal norms. Otto became infatuated with Dolly, willing to do anything to keep her happy. But secrecy is a heavy burden, and in a world of close-knit communities and watchful eyes, it was only a matter of time before whispers of impropriety began to surface. Fred, though consumed by work, started noticing subtle changes in Dolly's behavior. Her frequent absences and newfound energy raised questions he didn't yet have answers to. The Oesterreich household was teetering on the edge of a revelation. How far could Dolly go before Fred discovered the truth? And how would Otto, still a teenager, handle the consequences of a love affair that was spiraling out of control? What happens when passion and secrecy collide in a household already stretched thin by emotional distance? Stay tuned to uncover the next chapter in this chilling true crime story. Otto Sanhuber was just a 17-year-old repairman when he crossed paths with Dolly Oesterreich. He was young, ambitious, and eager to prove himself in Fred's factory. On paper, Otto was nothing more than a teenager earning a modest living. But to Dolly, he became the embodiment of the excitement and escape she craved. Their first meeting was unremarkable at first glance, a routine day at the factory. Otto worked diligently to repair a faulty machine when Dolly entered the room. Her elegance and poise set her apart from the factory's usual hustle and bustle. Though her presence was fleeting, it left a lasting impression on Otto. Dolly, on the other hand, saw something in Otto that reignited a spark within her, a youthful energy and a simplicity that contrasted with Fred's cold, calculating demeanor. It wasn't long before Dolly found reasons to visit the factory more frequently. Her polite inquiries about Fred's business were often followed by lingering conversations with Otto, who was both captivated and nervous in her presence. What began as casual exchanges soon took on a different tone. Dolly's charm and wit were impossible for Otto to resist, and her attention made him feel special in a way he had never experienced before. To Dolly, Otto was more than just a young man. He was an escape from the confines of her monotonous life. Dolly began inviting Otto to the Oesterreich home under the pretense of fixing household machines. These visits became more frequent, and each one chipped away at the boundaries of propriety. Fred, oblivious to the growing connection between his wife and the young repairman, continued to focus on his business, leaving Dolly ample time to orchestrate her meetings with Otto. The affair quickly intensified, fueled by secrecy and the thrill of forbidden love. Dolly's advances were bold and deliberate, while Otto, though hesitant, found himself drawn into her world. He became infatuated with her, willing to do anything she asked, even as the weight of their actions began to sink in. For Otto, Dolly represented something he had never known: luxury, sophistication, and a sense of belonging. But their relationship was far from equal. Dolly held all the power, manipulating Otto's emotions to maintain control. What Otto saw as love, Dolly saw as a means to fill the emptiness in her life. As their affair deepened, Dolly knew they were playing a dangerous game. The walls of the Oesterreich household, though sturdy, couldn't contain their secret forever. And in a world where appearances meant everything, discovery would mean ruin for both of them. Dolly began devising a plan to ensure their secret could continue without suspicion. It was an audacious idea, one that would push the boundaries of what anyone thought possible. She proposed that Otto move into their attic, hidden from the world and from Fred, where he could live undetected while remaining close to her. Otto, blinded by his devotion to Dolly, agreed without hesitation. He left behind his life as a repairman and became a shadow, confined to the cramped and dark space above the Oesterreich home. For years, he would live in secrecy, his only connection to the outside world coming through Dolly. Their arrangement was unconventional, to say the least, but it worked, for a time. Otto's presence in the attic allowed Dolly to maintain control over their relationship while continuing her double life as Fred's wife. The arrangement also fed into Dolly's need for dominance, as Otto became entirely dependent on her for food, company, and survival. But secrets have a way of surfacing, and the walls of the Oesterreich home couldn't keep their secret forever. How long could Otto remain hidden? And how far would Dolly go to protect the life she had built with her husband and her lover in the shadows? What happens when love becomes a prison and secrecy turns into obsession? Stay with us as we uncover the chilling lengths Dolly Oesterreich went to for the man she claimed to love. When Dolly proposed that Otto move into the attic, it seemed like an outrageous plan. But to Otto, blinded by his infatuation and devotion, it was a testament to their love. He agreed without hesitation, leaving behind his job and life to live entirely in secret. For Otto, the attic became his world, a confined space that symbolized both his sacrifice and his dependence on Dolly. The attic was small, dark, and isolated. For over a decade, Otto lived there undetected, rarely stepping outside. His days were spent reading, writing, and waiting for Dolly's visits, which became the only moments of human interaction he had. She brought him food, books, and company, while he, in turn, fulfilled her every emotional and physical need. For Dolly, the arrangement gave her complete control. Otto was entirely dependent on her, a secret she could wield without fear of discovery, at least for a while. Fred remained oblivious, continuing his routine of work and occasional outbursts at home, while Otto listened from above, silently enduring the man's presence. But living in secrecy came at a cost. Otto's confinement began to take a toll on his mental and emotional health. The isolation was stifling, and while he never complained, the strain of living as a prisoner in the attic was evident. Dolly, however, dismissed his discomfort, assuring him that their love justified the sacrifices he was making. The secrecy was unsustainable. Fred and Dolly's marriage grew increasingly strained, with arguments becoming more frequent and volatile. Otto, trapped above, listened to every word, his frustration mounting. It was only a matter of time before this fragile arrangement would implode. What happens when years of secrecy and control boil over into confrontation? The tension that had been simmering for years in the Oesterreich household reached its breaking point on August 22, 1922. Fred, increasingly suspicious and irritable, confronted Dolly about her frequent absences and peculiar behavior. Their argument quickly escalated into a shouting match that reverberated through the walls of the home. Otto, as always, listened from the attic. But this time, something was different. The intensity of the fight unsettled him. Dolly's safety, the justification he had used to stay hidden all these years, now felt more precarious than ever. When Fred's voice grew louder, Otto's fear turned into desperation. Unable to remain a silent observer any longer, Otto emerged from the attic, armed with a pistol Dolly had kept hidden. His sudden appearance shocked Fred, who had no idea the young man had been living above him for nearly a decade. The confrontation was brief but violent. In the chaos, Otto shot Fred, ending his life instantly. The aftermath was chaos. Fred's lifeless body lay on the floor, and Otto stood frozen, the gun still in his hand. Dolly, however, remained composed. She quickly took control, her calculating nature taking over as she devised a plan to cover up the crime. Dolly staged the scene to look like a botched burglary. She instructed Otto to lock her in a closet from the outside, creating the illusion that she had been a victim as well. Otto, still reeling from what he had done, complied without question. After securing Dolly in the closet, he retreated back to the attic, where he remained hidden, even as the police arrived. When authorities arrived, Dolly appeared distraught but unharmed. She claimed that an intruder had broken into their home, killed her husband, and locked her in the closet before fleeing. While the story initially seemed plausible, detectives quickly noticed inconsistencies. The house showed no signs of forced entry, and the burglar had left behind valuables that a thief would typically take. Despite their doubts, the police had no concrete evidence to contradict Dolly's account. Fred's death was officially ruled a homicide, but without a suspect, the case remained unsolved. For Dolly and Otto, it seemed their secret had been preserved, at least for now. How long could this fragile facade hold before the truth inevitably surfaced? After Fred's death, Dolly relocated to Los Angeles, seeking a fresh start. But some parts of her old life couldn't be left behind. Otto, still loyal and devoted to Dolly, followed her to their new home, where the bizarre arrangement continued. Once again, Otto took up residence in the attic, living as a ghost in Dolly's life, while she carried on as if nothing had happened. For Otto, the move brought little change. The attic was still his world, his isolation unbroken except for Dolly's visits. He spent his days writing stories and reading books that Dolly brought him, his life reduced to the confines of his hiding place. Dolly, meanwhile, adapted to her new surroundings with ease. She maintained a social life, charmed her neighbors, and even began a new relationship with her attorney, Herman Shapiro. To the outside world, she was a widow moving on with her life. No one suspected the dark secret hidden just above her head, but secrets have a way of resurfacing. Dolly's carefully constructed narrative began to unravel when Herman discovered Fred's missing watch, a piece of evidence Dolly had claimed was stolen during the burglary. Suspicious, Herman started to question Dolly's version of events, setting off a chain reaction that would expose the truth. How long could Dolly keep Otto hidden while juggling her new life and relationship? Herman Shapiro couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was off. The watch Dolly had gifted him, A watch she claimed was lost during the burglary that ended Fred's life was too perfect, too intact. It didn't fit the narrative she had spun about the chaotic crime that had supposedly claimed her husband. His doubts grew, and so did his curiosity. Herman's suspicions deepened when Dolly's former lover, Roy Klumb, came forward with incriminating information. Roy revealed that Dolly had asked him to dispose of a gun shortly after Fred's murder. A gun that matched the description of the weapon used in the crime. Armed with this new evidence, authorities reopened the investigation, and all eyes turned to Dolly. But the biggest revelation came when police searched Dolly's new home and discovered the unthinkable. Otto Sanhuber, still living in the attic after all these years. Malnourished but alive, Otto emerged from the shadows, his existence confirming the bizarre rumors that had circulated about the Oesterreich household. Otto's story stunned investigators. He confessed to his decade-long affair with Dolly and his role in Fred's murder. His detailed account of his life in the attic, living in silence, surviving on scraps, and existing solely for Dolly, captivated and horrified the public. Dolly, confronted with Otto's confession, continued to deny any wrongdoing. She painted herself as a victim, claiming that Otto acted independently out of misguided devotion. But the court of public opinion had already turned against her, and the legal battle that followed became one of the most sensational trials of the era. What would the justice system make of this strange and sordid tale? The trial of Dolly Oesterreich and Otto Sanhuber captivated the nation. It wasn't just the crime itself that drew attention, but the bizarre and almost unbelievable details of their relationship. The public was riveted by the tale of a man who had lived in an attic for years, driven by his devotion to a woman who had orchestrated a murder. Otto's confession laid everything bare. He admitted to shooting Fred Oesterreich during the heated confrontation, but claimed it was out of fear for Dolly's safety. The court was presented with the extraordinary story of his life in confinement, where he endured years of isolation, sustained only by his love for Dolly and her promises of a future together. Dolly, ever the manipulator, maintained her innocence. She portrayed Otto as an obsessive admirer who had acted on his own accord. Her defense team argued that she had no knowledge of his intentions and was as much a victim as anyone else. But the evidence against her painted a different picture. Otto's detailed testimony, combined with the account from Roy Klumb about the gun disposal and Herman Shapiro's suspicions, painted Dolly as the mastermind behind the crime. The jury was tasked with untangling the truth from a story that seemed stranger than fiction. After weeks of sensational testimony, the trial reached its conclusion. Otto was convicted of manslaughter, but due to the statute of limitations, he walked free. His years in hiding deemed punishment enough. Dolly's trial ended in a hung jury. The prosecutors decided not to pursue a retrial, and she too avoided prison. Despite this legal victory, Dolly's reputation was irreparably damaged, and her place in history was cemented as one of the most notorious figures in true crime. What becomes of a life after surviving such scandal? Can someone truly escape the shadows of their past? After the trial, Dolly and Otto both attempted to move on with their lives, but the events of their shared past lingered like a ghost. For Otto, freedom came with a heavy burden. His years in the attic and his role in Fred's murder defined him in the public eye. Though he avoided prison, his life remained one of isolation and obscurity. Dolly, ever resourceful, settled back into her life in Los Angeles. She continued to live comfortably, though the scandal followed her everywhere. Her charm and cunning allowed her to navigate society, but the shadow of Fred's death and Otto's revelations never truly left her. Despite her best efforts to rebuild, Dolly's life was marked by the notoriety of her past. Her relationships were strained, her trust eroded by years of manipulation and deceit. She lived out her days quietly, fading into relative obscurity until her death in 1961. The story of Dolly Oesterreich and Otto Sanhuber remains a chilling reminder of the lengths to which obsession, control, and secrecy can push people. It is a tale that continues to captivate and horrify audiences, a testament to the darkest corners of the human psyche. How far would you go for love? And at what cost does devotion become destruction? Even after the trials ended, the bizarre story of Dolly Oesterreich and Otto Sanhuber remained a topic of fascination. It wasn't just the shocking crime that captivated people, it was the strange dynamics of their relationship. The idea of a man living in secrecy for over a decade, controlled by a woman's will, was almost too surreal to believe. True crime enthusiasts and reporters alike dissected the case for years, trying to unravel what it revealed about human behavior. Was Otto a victim of manipulation, or was he a willing participant? Was Dolly a cunning mastermind, or a desperate woman driven to extreme measures? The answers remained elusive, but the questions kept the story alive in public memory. The case also left a profound impact on how society viewed relationships, power, and control. Dolly's ability to manipulate those around her, Fred, Otto, and even her attorney, Herman Shapiro, highlighted the dangerous potential of unchecked charisma and influence. Otto's story, on the other hand, became a cautionary tale about the cost of blind devotion. The Oesterreich case has inspired numerous adaptations in popular culture, from novels to films. Each retelling brings a new perspective to the story, exploring its psychological, social, and moral complexities. The legacy of this scandal endures, a reminder of the timeless fascination with the darker sides of human nature. But what truly drove Dolly and Otto to live as they did? Was it love, obsession, or something far more sinister? The story of Dolly Oesterreich and Otto Sanhuber isn't just a tale of crime, it's a glimpse into the depths of human psychology. It's a story of power dynamics, the boundaries of love, and the devastating consequences of secrecy. For Otto, the attic was both a sanctuary and a prison. His willingness to sacrifice his freedom for Dolly speaks to the intensity of his devotion, but also to the extent of her influence over him. His life became a haunting example of what can happen when love turns into submission. For Dolly, her charm and cunning allowed her to manipulate everyone in her orbit. She built a life that defied convention, but at a terrible cost. The lies, control, and ultimate betrayal she orchestrated left a legacy stained with tragedy. In the end, the story leaves us with more questions than answers. Could things have ended differently if Fred had been more attentive? If Otto had refused to live in the attic? If Dolly had sought fulfillment in another way? These what-ifs are what make the story so compelling and so unsettling. As we reflect on this case, one question lingers. What lengths would you go to for love? And when does devotion become obsession? If you found this story captivating and want more incredible cases like this, don't forget to support True Crime Acts. Hit the like button to show your interest, subscribe to our channel for more gripping tales, and click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Your support helps us bring these unforgettable stories to life. Thank you for joining us today. Stay curious, stay cautious, and join us next time for another shocking and unforgettable journey into the world of true crime. This has been True Crime Acts. See you soon.